Going live, going live, going live, and we're live. Good evening. I am Max Porter. By day, I am the writer, editor, lore keeper, board game designer, and stream host of City State Entertainment. Tonight, I am the hardworking game master behind the Wildlands campaign and the Rare Imports Blades in the Dark campaign. And tonight, I am thinking of working on some interesting encounters. I've done a lot of story creation, background stuff for the dungeon that the party is currently in the Wildlands campaign. This map, of course, as always, I give credit to the amazing Saving Thrower of savingthrower.deviantart.com. Made this and other amazing maps and put them out there for folks to use in their Roll20 games, and it's wonderful. So, all the rest of this stuff is from searching on Roll20 itself. Now, at this moment, the party is engaged. They have taken on a couple of giant scorpions. There was one, now there are two. Because one party member decided to grab this gem, which they pretty much figured would be trapped. Now, if I take a close look at these scorpions, they look pretty fiendish. I think these fiendish scorpions are on theme for what I have going on in this dungeon. They were placed there by a mage of the Empire of Ebb. Everything in Ebb was one syllable. I think that has a nice kind of Lovecraftian, ancient city feel, ancient culture feeling. The Empire of Ebb. Let's see here. So, Grimslag, I thought that was you. Welcome, Grimslag. Great to see you, as always. I'm trying to think of ways to make this encounter more interesting. There was one scorpion, and then that was doubled. That will increase the difficulty, and might make it a little more interesting, because there's a few more things to worry about. It certainly would have been an easy encounter if I just had the one scorpion. But I'm trying to come up with things, because they're already in the middle of this encounter. We left last session on Sunday night, last Sunday night, with Roll Initiative. So certain things are established. There are two scorpions. This is the area in which they are fighting. Those are facts that cannot be altered, but they've already run over a lot of the floor, so there's not going to be traps there. There is a trap back here, of course. Or maybe something more interesting. I think it's important to not just come up with challenges, but also ways for the players to succeed. So one thing they can do is go back behind here and get some cover from this giant stone hand, which I was really happy to find on Roll20 because it looks cool and has become the focal point of the puzzle in this dungeon. What else? So why would they need cover, though? Because if these are just giant scorpions, then that's not really going to be all that helpful, except unless somebody wedges themselves back here and the scorpion is too big to get back there as well. But I think we might make it more interesting. So, what makes an encounter interesting in Dungeons & Dragons? Well, for one thing, targeting all of the players' specialties. Different classes in D&D. Just typing something real quick in my notes. All of the classes have certain strengths and weaknesses. So letting them use their strengths while having to learn to avoid hitting their weaknesses is one of the principal things about making an interesting encounter. So an encounter is kind of the slow answer to the question, will the heroes do something or other? In this case, survive the battle with the two fiendish scorpions. Does the giant stone hand do anything interesting? It does. If the players... It is the focal point of a puzzle in this dungeon. In my dungeon design, I always like to include reason for the players to explore the whole thing. And in this case, there are these gigantic gems scattered at the distant corners of the dungeon. If collected and placed in the stone hand, it will have a magical effect that they can benefit from. Grimslags, I wanted to read that again. Like Wayne Gretzky behind the net, a good player could do a lot from back behind the hand. Indeed, they could, especially if the hand has other magical abilities. So, giving them something fun to interact with during the encounter and to cleverly use to their advantage is another way of making the encounter interesting. So, what could happen? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is if somebody comes back here, they could, besides getting cover, they could activate the hand to animate an attack. So it might reach out and try and squish some of one of the nearby scorpions. That could be interesting. Bit of a short range thing, but maybe they can use help with that. For now, I'll just say I'll just go with that. That if they touch the hand, they can kind of will it. They can make a charisma check to cause it to animate and attack their enemies. That'll be interesting. There's also these pillars that I have set up here. Now, there are certain elements to every encounter. There's the enemies. There's the weapons, the armaments of the players, which I've just added to by having an interesting thing with the hand. And there's the terrain. And these pillars are suggestive of interesting terrain. Perhaps they are cursed, and you don't want to be near them. But I think it might be more interesting if they had a reason to stand behind them. So perhaps these pillars could be knocked over to cause part of the roof to cave in. If they really needed a boost. Perhaps there's a carving on the pillars that could be magically significant. So I'm going to make some notes for myself as I do this, so that I remember to do these things. Hand. Oh, going to need to make that not black on black. There we go. I'll make that a fairly easy charisma check. And move that over here so that it's near where I need to see it. Cool. I'm going to do something interesting with the scorpions, but we'll come back to that. Pillars equal load bearing, potentially. A good sniper could do a lot from behind the hand, and that's why I am making the hand a more melee thing to kind of keep enemies away. It could push the scorpions away. I kind of like that idea. Alright, so we have an idea about the terrain with these pillars. Of course, they could stand behind them and get cover. Now, cover doesn't mean a whole lot in close combat, in melee, because generally speaking, you can move around it. Although it has some advantages. It's not something the scorpions are going to be taking advantage of, though. So the terrain isn't going to be aiding the enemies too much in this fight, because that just wouldn't feel right. Let's see. Giant scorpions in the monster manual. They're large, of course. It has multi-attack, so it can make 3 attacks. 2 with its claws and 1 with its sting. Very apropos. They are considered challenge rating 3. I think these scorpions are going to have to be a bit... Well, I may not want to make them harder than that. But these are fiendish scorpions. They are touched by demonic power. Oof, they can hit pretty hard. +4 to hit. 1d10 plus 2 piercing damage with a claw. Or no, that's the sting. And a DC 12 Constitution saving throw, which is not super hard, but if they fail... Wow. 4d10 poison damage on a failed save, or half on a successful one if you're hit by the sting. These are challenge rating 3? I don't know about that. I'm not sure there are too many characters that can just take 22 average damage to the chin and be okay. Yeah, they dead, Grimslag. They dead. Grimslag, do you expect the players to ask you if they observe a structural significance to the pillars? Well, they did ask me earlier. So I have some reason to think they might. But now that combat is joined, because they asked about these pillars because they were going to push them onto the mouth. Didn't quite make the strength check to do that. Grimslag asks, or do you silently roll if a certain player has a related skill that may allow him/her to notice how the pillars potentially coming down may impact part of the worn, chipped ceiling areas. I'd probably make it if they, don't have time to ask during the fight, which is only to be expected. I might have them make a use a related skill, as you say, to notice the pillars may be load-bearing and weak enough to break. So I certainly wouldn't want to just, I think it's a little silly for the GM to sit there with arms folded. It's like, well, you didn't think to ask about the special thing that only I knew about. So, too bad. So I'd definitely give them a check on that. Pillars equal load bearing. And put that somewhere where I can remember it. Now, let's see. The scorpions aren't going to easily fit through the door. So I may want to seal the players in here. But that's pretty brutal, pretty deadly. Grimslag, right, we spoke about hints and riddles yesterday. Someone openly asks about the pillars. They should get some general direction, but not the whole story. I would say they should get some general direction, but not the whole story, and a hint, ideally something that hints that there might be more to discover. Yeah. So I think it might be interesting. How are we going to make these scorpions fiendish? That's what I'm wondering. What's going to be so demonic about them? Maybe they can shoot some weaker version of their poison out of their stingers. They are going to be pretty deadly in combat if they hit anybody. So I don't really want to make them too much more deadly. I certainly wouldn't want their ranged attack to do that amount of damage. That would be kind of insane. So what's going to be fiendish about them? Well, let's see what some fiends have as their abilities. Actually, I wonder if I might steal an idea from another game. Let me grab my Pathfinder book. The Pathfinder NPC Codex. What do we have? This is going to be full of NPCs. Not necessarily fiends. But it might be interesting. Might be interesting if we gave these scorpions... I think you're going to have to dumb down the damage, says Grimslag. Yeah. That's pretty intense for a... See, this is why you can't completely trust challenge ratings, because this is... They're listed as challenge rating 3, and the players are level 2, but there are 7 of them, so they have ripped apart. Even the challenge rating 4 encounter with the Bone Naga. You can see it has a big red X on it. Well, let's think about this. What would the Empire of Ebb like to do? We've had the scorpions doubling. Ooh. I think it might be more interesting if these scorpions could teleport. What if they could pop around and make trouble that way? That's an ability the Empire of Ebb might give them when summoning these fiendish giant scorpions. I think those are the only modifications I really need to make this encounter interesting to the monsters. Scorpions. Shoot. I will say 1d10 poison. Which is pretty intense already. And can Misty Step, which is a short-range teleport. And I'll just remind myself to describe them as fiendish. But yeah, not only that, but their claws do all right damage, 1d8 plus 2, and grapple the opponent. Now, grappling in 5th edition isn't so terrible. It just means you can't move, which can be a problem, but it's not utterly devastating. Grimslide, 2 different colors. One heavy, slow, big damage. Other fast, less HP, quick, multiple attacks. What do you mean, 2 different colors? Oh, you mean make the scorpions different. I think. Well, I've already established that they look the same. That's already been established in the game. And I don't want to, retcon anything. They might be better at working together than you might expect. For example, this guy could come down here and flank and get advantage. And doing the flanking dance will certainly up the ante quite a bit. Really, flanking is just about all of the tactical positioning that exists in 5th edition. I miss that in earlier editions, in 3rd edition. I miss that from 3rd edition, the whole 5-foot step, attacks of opportunity. It was a little complicated, so I understand why they got rid of it. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I need to be ready to seal them in here, because they might just stand over here, watch as the scorpions try to squeeze through the door. Well, maybe that, you know what? I won't punish them for that. Oh, right, I don't need to, because the scorpions have Misty Step. I don't need to do any sealing. If they all decide to run through this door and leave the larger scorpions behind, the scorpions can Misty Step through. Perfect. Oh, this is going to be a nasty encounter. So there's something for everybody to do. Akiri has grabbed the gem. The gem, by the way, the blue sapphire, is what is activating this pool to be what it is. Some of the players will be able to attack at range and avoid the up-close and nastiness of these guys. And I really only am giving them a ranged attack to help them feel less like normal giant scorpions, like less like scorpions of this world, and more like fiendish things, and to kind of give them an attack that's a little less devastating, because their melee stuff is brutal. And they have AC 15, which is going to be challenging to hit sometimes, and 52 HP. So these guys are nasty. How are they CR3? These guys are brutal, especially in the amount of damage. I don't really want to tone it down, but it's definitely going to be interesting. I think we're going to need a way for them to heal. I think we're going to need a way for the players to heal each other. Perhaps that's what the hand does. Perhaps with its instead of being an extra squishing attack, perhaps touching the hand heals the players. I think that's more interesting anyway. Certainly not just these pillars, because that's a little dull. So I'm going to change this from hand crushes to healing hand. Oops. I have the wrong tool. That's my problem. Healing hand. All right. And I'll make a note to myself of what it does. So if they touch it, we'll just say 1d8 healing. I can have the players roll a d8. You lost connection and came back. Welcome back, Grimslag. I did wonder what happened. Alright, I think this encounter has plenty going for it now. So I've changed the hand to heal. I've given them a way of just, saying rocks fall, everyone dies if they need to, and collapsing this half of the room by knocking over some pillars and killing any scorpions underneath. And I've made the scorpions have a lot of interesting things they can do. After that, I'm definitely going to be... I hope they are rewarded, because they flanked this guy. So their extra planning will pay off in doing a whole lot of damage to this guy early in the fight. The Scorpions got a 9 on their initiative, as you can see here. So all these players are going to get to go before that. And they can put some serious hurt down on that thing. And then get seriously hurt in return, while this one flanks. And that'll be good because it'll establish that these are a little more intelligent than your average scorpion of the garden variety scorpion. And it will... Bref will be able to survive it. Wow, even Bref, with his mighty magic belt, only has 32 HP now. So, those poison stings are going to be nasty. I may have to consider, maybe this gem can revive people. Wouldn't that be interesting? I think I'm going to make a note of that, because if somebody goes down, I'm definitely going to reward them for being clever on the scorpion. On the one scorpion. Sapphire can save one life. Grimslike, do the scorpions have motivations? Have they been trained? Yes, they have been summoned from a darker plane of existence to be guardians of this chamber. If they have one party member touches something they're guarding, they both attack that person. Indeed. And they are guarding this hand and the jewel within. And I think Akiri already grabbed it. So that will definitely be, as these are guardians, they're definitely going to go for Akiri. And that's another reason they need to have a ranged attack, because Akiri can fly. So that'll keep things threatening for sure. But man, that is those I'm surprised by how much damage these guys do. I did not realize. That's pretty nasty. Good thing to turn into if you're a druid with wild shape. You want to do some serious damage, turn into a giant scorpion at low levels. Ouch. Alright. Let's go over here. Because these encounters are not set up to be all that interesting. I have this secret door, which is indicated by this body, so even if the players aren't thinking of searching in the area, there's at least a giant clue. Literally giant, because that's a big body. Now, to make this... Oops. To make this encounter over here interesting, let's see. I have all of these relatively easy undead enemies. Got a kobold zombie here. I've got a ghoul here. I've got some weird objects lying around. There's a wight or something. Or another zombie. If I want. And then we have this sleeping woman next to the sarcophagus. With some interesting history to her, too. Now that it's been created. Let's see. Well, I have all these chambers, and I was going to kind of have each of these tiny chambers be its own thing, but that's not really utilizing the terrain. And one of our principles of making interesting encounters is utilizing the terrain. Let's see if we have some undead archer things. Skeleton. Or it could be... It'll be undead if it's... Oh, there we go. These guys are pretty characterful. It'll be undead if it was part of the group that was traveling with Lady Zavia when she came through. But it might be interesting if there were some defenses left over. I just don't know why they wouldn't have been cleared out. Same with these traps. I think I might get rid of these traps. They might... it might be more interesting if these traps... You need enemy archers or some kind of ranged. Yeah, I think I agree. It might be interesting if these traps had been expended. Like there's an open pit trap. That automatically makes some interesting terrain, don't it? Pit traps galore. It's not really a pit trap, is it? Oh, I like the one with the snakes at the bottom. That's pretty great. Cool. Grimp's like, old scenario. Looked in a dungeon room with a 12-foot ceiling. DM said 12 goblins. Asked what weapons. DM didn't mention any or ranged. So I cast Fly on our ranger. He went in alone with his bow and killed all the gobbos. Open pit trap, great for nudging enemies into. Yeah, totally. Or for the enemies bull rushing you into. That's what I like about terrain. Is it so often cuts both ways. Okay. Now, we've got some easy-ish enemies here. I think I'll just say all of these things are zombies. Oh, did I just put... I put the traps on the GM layer. Silly me. Back to the token layer with you. I think I might say that these guys are zombies. Leftover. You know what would be great if I mentioned there were some dead zombie bodies. Dead zombies. Some destroyed zombie bodies at the bottom of these pit traps. I wonder if that's a thing that I might actually have. Or maybe there's zombies still living down there. Ooh. That's a nasty thought. Timmy fell in the well, and he's a zombie now. Or he was already a zombie. Because that's how leftover zombies get them cheaper at Zombie Depot. Well, they are leftover zombies. They're here because Lady Zavia came through and was just trying to clear out the dungeon to be a sort of a lair for her while she waited out the last empire. So she would just fling her zombies down in the pits. I'll say there's one here. There's a zombie impaled on some spikes down there. This guy's standing and staring in the corner, Blair Witch style, so that's creepy. And, I got a crawling zombie down here. Trapped down there with the snakes or whatever they are. That's pretty cool. This guy's somehow managed to climb out over time. Oh, I've got a wolf thing in here too. Like an undead wolf zombie. Let's see if I can't get a better look at him. Oh man. Is he wearing a saddle? I think he is. Rife Peter, what about the White Walker Bears? Welcome, Rife Peter. I hope your internet is cooperating with my stream better tonight. Grimslag, falling into a zombie snake pit. You're an evil GM. Well, it's open. You know, I'm not secretly hiding the pit. It's just it's some terrain. This is the backstory to the dungeon. Right, Peter. Yeah, seems smoother today. Well, I'm glad. I was so sorry that you were having trouble and had to go the other night. I threw this thing in here. This is another altar kind of thing that I like, the one I put over there. So this one could work similarly and teleport people. Where will it teleport them to? I don't know yet. Maybe this one. That's kind of funky. I like the idea that this dungeon is so old. Like, some of it just doesn't make sense anymore. You know, it was designed... Oh, it was fine. I had to leave for meetings anyway. Oh, do you work at this time, Rife Peter? Grimslag, can there be zombie snakes? Will it just be snakes with no venom? I mean, you could certainly have zombie boa constrictors without a problem. I don't know, I think they're zombies, so of course the venom's gonna work. Just to be extra nasty. That's what I think anyhow. I kind of like this pit with the snakes so much, I almost want to replace these other pits with it. I just love the way it looks. Well, I'll at least replace this one. Alright, so we've got some undead wandering around. Some of them have fallen in pits already. If you really don't want to get shoved down there. Rife Peter, yeah, I'm at work right now. Well, thanks for joining me, Rife Peter. Rife Peter says, zombie snakes. Playing off of what Grimslag suggested. If they bite you, you'll just become zombies, right? I don't really know what the rules would be. In D&D, zombies are not that scary. They're really not. The Nikoloth, the Ultraloth. I haven't used Yugoloths so often. What kind of cool abilities these guys have? Yeah, teleporting. Ooh, hypnotic gaze. Be charmed. The charmed target is stunned. Which means they're going to lose a turn. Lots of spells. Not too much else going on there. So yeah, zombies. Pardon me. So these would probably be... Constrictor Snake is on the next page. Yeah. These are probably just going to be regular zombies, challenge rating 1/4, so they'll be pushovers for this party. Rife Peter, maybe have a roll where if your willpower attribute or something plus the roll is lower than a certain value, you start the zombifying process. Else you can gain some attributes from the zombifying process. Yeah, it would be interesting to kind of think about, especially with zombie snakes, like, is their bite just double bad? Like you can turn into a zombie and you're poisoned? Or does it do something weird to the poison itself? Zombies are hard to just finish off, which is why they are not the real threat. Oh no. The true threat will be the skeletons with crossbows. Now I'm going to put one here. Not because I think he is ideally positioned when the players come through this secret door right here. But because I'm going to kind of introduce the concept of the skeletons being positioned right up next to the wall this way. Going forward. Ooh, skeleton lich. That'll be fun to use sometime. So I have one skeleton archer here. And I think it's kind of interesting if they're like start facing away and then like spin around. Crossbow at the ready. And the zombies are going to come running... These zombies are going to come running down this area. And kind of interact around the pits. I may have a zombie attempt to push a player in a pit. Not saying I will. It would have to be an unusually clever zombie, wouldn't it? Grimslag has a good question. How do the undead in the room not randomly just walk around over months and fall into the pit unless they're chained to the wall? Grimslag, I think that has happened. There's some undead in the pits after all. I think the ones that are out have managed to climb out. I need to come up with what Lady Zavia's robe does. Magic robe. D&D item. Let's see. Robe of the Archmagi. This is going to be way too strong. Exquisite cloth of white, gray, or black and adorned with silvery runes. The robe's color corresponds to the alignment for which the item was created. Huh. This one's red, though. If you aren't wearing armor... Okay, so it gives you an AC. Advantage on saving throws. Here's the kicker. Your spell save DC and spell attack bonus each increased by 2. That's amazing. That's a little on the strong side. The robe should be something tied to Lady Zavia's story and the undead army that lies waiting for someone to claim it. Like the robe allows passage into her tomb, or perhaps the robe protected Lady Zavia from something, and that's why she's not here, but the robe remains. Perhaps it can automatically teleport you away. Perhaps it's imbued with a contingency spell. That when its wearer takes a certain amount of damage, they are teleported away. But something went wrong with the magic and it left the robe behind. The robe restores her human beauty in full form. Oh, Grimslag, that's great. That's going on the table. Restores human beauty to an undead. Oh, that is so great. Where did you come up with that, Grimslag? That is great. What a great idea. Oh my lord. I need to put that in my notes. Also, there is Lady Zavia's robe, which restores the humanoid beauty of any undead that dons it. That's so great. It's so vain in this creepy way. Oh, that is great. In addition to its other abilities, if one of your players puts it on, their attractiveness raises. Or maybe it makes them look undead. If a living being wears it, their form appears rotted and undead. A true necrotic horror. Oh, that is great. That's officially the coolest, like, story background thing. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Lady Zavia's servant is going to have some background information if the players can figure out how to wake her up. It won't be easy. And then there's some terrible trap guarding this gem. But, what will the trap be? Oh. I'll put some piles of ash here that show the undead have been incinerated that have tried to wander into this room. That will be their warning. Pile of ash. Let's see. Nothing. How about just a pile? Pile of bodies. Just a little pile of skulls. That actually does kind of look cool. I'll mention that they are charred. And the way to bypass this trap is to use this sarcophagus. Let's make a note. Use sarcophagus to bypass trap. Of course, there are other ways they can bypass the trap. But that's the one I'm going to write down. There should be 3 ways of bypassing any trap. Ways that make sense. They don't all have to be clever. Grim's like, that's awesome if somebody actually wears it into a town. I don't think that it would make it that far, because they would see the person, the other players will tell them, probably. So is this a fireball trap? Probably. It could be a beam. It could be a wall of fire trap. That just goes all the way down here, scorching everything. But then we'd have, like, scorched stuff all the way down here, because I'm saying that the skeletons or other undead kept wandering in. So it'll probably just be contained to this room. That'll be cool. Add a little more set dressing. And I think that how creepy would it be if it was on the other side of the gym, staring down this hallway? That's pretty weird. The man with no screen name. Encounter? But Max, do you even know her? Oh my lord. Nobody can use words ending in ER around the man with no screen name. This is going to be pretty cool. We've got some melee foes to engage, backed up by ranged guys. This guy will have plenty of range there. There's some creepy stuff to find. There's a trap to bypass, and then there's the dungeon-wide puzzle. Next session should be pretty cool. And we're hitting all kinds of things. We got terrain, we got interesting enemies. I like it when a game has a lot of different kinds of things to do. A lot of different kinds of challenges occur. This is probably a healing fountain, by the way. Another place for the players to refresh themselves. If they dare. Perhaps tomorrow night I will figure out a little bit about how to make this room more interesting. Because it does have an interesting backstory to it. We've got the broken rune circle, the mummy, the gem, the gigantic gem. But there's not a lot else going on in that room. Or this room. So we may work on those tomorrow. Grimslag, they're going to have some fun with this well-thought-out design. Well, yeah, I hope so. Thanks for helping me come up with ideas. Okay, I'm going to do one... Well, maybe that's plenty. Kind of want to... Oh, man, this guy is such a different size than this guy. He's in the pit. Because he's way down in the pit. Way down. Way down we go. Alright. Actually, I just changed my mind about this teleporter. What if it let them kind of push past some of these dangers and come to grips over here? That could be interesting. That could be interesting. Yeah, I think that works. Cool. That'll be a fun encounter as everything comes running down this kind of long hallway. Lots of cool stuff here. And I can still come up with something for these basilisk eggs to do, like hatch. Hopefully, I don't know how much we'll get through next session, but there's an awful lot of dungeons still to explore if the players decide they are interested. So I've got to make sure that there are lots of places to kind of restock and refresh themselves. They were quite clever to never go in this room. I mean, I would have given them some treasure. But they managed to figure out that they didn't want to open this door. Perhaps they're learning. Grimslag. Or the teleporter puts the party into a pit with stakes and several undead. That would be much more interesting. I don't know, that seems like a kind of just a middle finger. Like, oh, you wanted to interact with this thing? Well, too freaking bad. I mean, it's not all fun and games. The teleporter will put them in a room with an enemy and some weird stuff, and if they decide to head this direction, then they're going to get hit by that nasty, nasty trap. So, you know. But probably after the previous teleporter put them over here, they're probably not going to step on this plinth. Perhaps the teleporter is random, and that's one of 3 possibilities. Yeah. Actually, perhaps it is Grimslag. Maybe if you step on one of these, it could teleport you to any of the other 2. Either of the other 2. Well, I'll think about it, but I kind of like that idea. And it gives the players some dice to roll. I'll be like, roll a die, and then based on the result, they'll end up somewhere. Getting clever. Well, D&D players are like velociraptors that way. Clever girl. And on that note, I'm going to be shutting down the stream for tonight, because I'm pretty tired. And another busy day tomorrow. But thanks for coming by, guys. I appreciate it. And thanks for the inspiration and the support and all that good stuff. Hopefully I'll see you around again tomorrow night, because I'm having a good time just streaming my campaign prep And I want to keep doing it. So, for now, good night. Thanks again. You folks are awesome for stopping by and chatting with me. Have a good one.